Gaming is good for far more reasons than I can ever explain, but one of the biggest benefits to it is the sense of togetherness it can bring out of us. From the squad you play with in Fortnite, to the memory of you and a significant other in It Takes Two, or in the chat room of an unruly online matchup in Grand Theft Auto 5, there are so many experiences to be sought out. Being someone with so much love for gaming, I have convinced many people in my life to give it a try, and 9 out of 10 newbies become enraptured, even making it a full-blown hobby. However, it can be difficult to convince a non-gamer that there's real value in picking up a controller. I will be giving you my tips on how to get other people into video games. Also, if you stick to the end of the video, I'll be splicing in clips of friends and family who speak on how they've gotten into gaming, or how they got others into it. For nearly as long as I have been alive, I've been gaming. There are 2 reasons it started, or really, 2 people. My dad was pretty heavy into early PC gaming with strategy outings like Command & Conquer, but before that, he was somehow gifted a brand new Super Nintendo by a high school girl who most definitely thought that would be her in. It wasn't. He thoroughly enjoyed Lethal Enforcer, Super Mario World, and Super Battle Tank. My dad cultivated this love for many years, and he always kept his small collection safe and sound. My very first time experiencing a game was through that TV, and the opening music to Super Mario World has permanently been ingrained in my soul ever since. I wasn't good at the game, especially because I didn't have the manual to understand what buttons did, and I could hardly remember what I was clicking because the controller was so unfamiliar to me. So I played and played, but I was not convinced that I really liked what I was doing. This is when the PS1 and my aunt came into play. My aunt is still actually pretty into video games, having just been giving a PS5 this past Christmas. She started playing games because her husband at the time showed off his PS1, and from what I remember, she was very into Parasite Eve and Legend of Dragoon. Somehow, someway, she decided to get rid of her crisp PS1, and so it was sent my way. I was about 4 or 5 when I got the system with a controller that was slightly too big for my hands, as well as Bugs Life and Crash Team Racing. When I tell you my life changed forever, it truly did. I could go on, but just in those few lines I've said to you, have you noticed how many people come and go through this story? Getting into gaming is a journey with a ton of people to tag you in along the way. Here's how it starts. When I talk with people, I really listen. First of all, how do we connect? I ask about media, whether it be music, a film, games, something to that effect. If they say,
I used to play Zelda back in the day.
I say, oh, that's cool. Which game?
Ocarina, I think. I really liked Harvest Moon too.
That's awesome. Did you ever try the newer stuff like Breath of the Wild?
No, I don't actually have a new system, but I've been thinking about getting one.
You totally should, I'd say. And then I'd probably recommend them a good place to get a system from or how to find one cheap. In other situations, like with people I know slightly better, if they say they have an interest in, let's say, Animal Crossing, I'd first ask what console they have access to.
I've got a 3DS.
Oh, you know there's 2 Animal Crossing games on there, right?
Yeah, I just don't have a copy of either. They're hard to find now.
Well, I actually have a loose card of New Leaf. Want to borrow it? From there, they have no excuse to not try it out if it's in their hands. With that being said, you can't always trust people to return things, or to return them nicely. If you aren't sure how they'll handle your stuff, recommend a library, or even more simply, make a day of letting them try it out with you there. With Animal Crossing especially, showing someone your town and the goofy animals can sell it. If I have someone over who I know likes Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a whole lot, but they don't really play games, I may pop in the GameCube game and have them go at it with me in co-op. With that being said, if someone is rather new or doesn't know the controller, you've got to be patient in talking them through the buttons. If they know one controller, like PlayStation, explain how the buttons in front of them mirror that remote, a la X is A on a GameCube controller. People who grew up prior to the PS2 era or just don't play modern games have a very difficult time understanding how to move both the character and the camera. This is why you see unsuspecting girlfriends getting blown away on Call of Duty more often than not. If you're with someone who's struggling, you can only do so much to calmly show them what's going on. It also takes practice. Let them run around in a safe zone or tutorial before throwing them in willy-nilly. Every once in a while, if they're really struggling, let them watch you play while they hold a controller in their hand. If you pick up an item with triangle, tell them to hit that on their own controller. If you're moving right and the camera is going up, have them practice that as well. I believe that the true key to getting someone into games is simply picking something that would appeal to them, not necessarily just a game you like. I learned this mostly through Persona 3. That's my favorite game of all time, yet my rose-tinted glasses don't quite fit another person. I first recommended it to a friend in 8th grade, giving him my whole Hannah Montana PSP and the game, which he actually played for a good 60 hours. For whatever reason, he didn't finish it. Probably because the monotony of Tartarus killed it for him. I tried to have my first significant other play, but it didn't work out for more than 20 minutes. Bestie Joss, who has been on the channel many times, lost 3 hours of progress on the PSP port and never returned. The list goes on. Looking back, the downside was that I was trying to force something I liked on them when they had never shown interest in a long, winding JRPG. I worked at a game store for a good while, and while we didn't sidearm people into buying needless stuff for out profit, we always wanted to give them true recommendations that seemed to fit. So if you're a gamer who prefers retro and wants to get people into it as well, I say get a Retron 5. It goes for a bit over $100 USD and plays Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, SNES, Famicom, Genesis, and a whole bunch more. It's the easiest to set up on a modern TV and acts as a gateway of convenience to test out a slew of cart-based games. Unfortunately, if someone is new to gaming, they'll likely want the newest of graphics and the most modern of games. At this point, I've honestly seen a large majority say that the PS3 looks too dated for them. With those people in mind, the easiest system to convince someone into purchasing is a Nintendo Switch or a PS4. Yes, they're not up to the graphical fidelity of a Series X or PS5, but they're a whole lot cheaper. Again, never underestimate the power of co-op or simply switching back and forth in single player. Systems get sold by what people see more often than not. I believe it's time to jump into personal anecdotes both as inspiration for you to get suggestion ideas and to spread the excitement of gaming introductions.
Honestly, I didn't really play any games until I met Sheep. My family played Guitar Hero, Six Flags, Wii Sports, or Playground, but I didn't really play anything on my own, and when I did, it was normally for pretty short stints. About a week after I met Sheep, I had to head back to college, and about 2 weeks after that, she ordered me a Switch so that we could play more games together. My first Switch was the yellow light, and I loved it with all of my heart. We started with Mario games. She had me buy Mario Kart, and maybe another one, but at this point I can't remember. Most of the games she bought too, since she worked at a game store at that time. As time went on, she started to help me find my own kind of games. One of my exes really liked Ace Attorney, and while I had to sit in the basement while he played it with his friends, I was never allowed to. One of the games that Sheep and I tried together, as a result, was Ace Attorney, and I absolutely loved it. Sheep made an effort to find me games that I'd like, even if I wasn't so sure about it. In fact, I fought her so hard on Animal Crossing because I thought that I wouldn't care about it, and here I am having over 400 hours on it.
Growing up, I didn't really play games because I didn't have much access to them, and my mom thought they were violent, so I didn't really have much of a chance. Mostly it was PC gaming. My favorite game was Wild Tangent's Fate. I played the first 3 levels for free on a Microsoft dial-up computer, and then just kind of party games whenever I was out with friends, or I was at a friend's house who had a Wii. I'd play Just Dance and Mario Kart, but not very often. And it wasn't until one of my friends, who was also a gamer, found out that I liked Fate, reintroduced me to the rest of the franchise, and then also Minecraft Dungeons. And then from there, I realized I really, really, really liked dungeon crawlers and RPGs, so I got into Diablo, and then just stuff like that. And from there, I've kind of branched out into more party games I think I settle with, and then things like the Lord of the Rings games. Not a lot of retro, honestly, but yeah.
Animal Crossing was actually the first video game that I got into as a kid. Sorry, my cat is meowing. That is so rude. I was in the 4th grade when I remember receiving that game. It was actually on the original DS, the ice blue one. It was really fat and chunky. And I had no idea what Wild World was. Like, I had no idea what Animal Crossing was. Like, obviously I didn't have, like, access to the internet at such a young age, so, like, it's not like I could be like, what is this? So I played it and fell in love with it, and my brother used to think it was hilarious to go up to the bulletin board and write mean, bad words on it. And I also, to this day, I always remember to save my game because as a kid, I was terrified of Rossetti. I remember playing Ocarina of Time on the Nintendo 64. That's how I got into Zelda at a really young age. And honestly, when I am suggesting video games for other people to play, those are two of the first that pop in my brain.
So one day, I was walking by my brother's room, and I noticed he was playing a video game. And I was like, oh, that looks pretty cool. So I walked in and, like, looked at what he was doing, and, like, what game he was playing. And it was Spider-Man on PS2. And I was just, like, so in awe of, like, how it looked, and, like, just the fact that you get to be this character that you see in movies and stuff, but you actually get to be the character in the games. And I was just like, oh my god, like, that is so cool. Like, I want to do that. I want to, like, try that and become the characters that I love seeing on the screen. Even, like, today now of, like, getting to even play, like, Fortnite with, like, my cousin and, like, my younger brother, and I just, like, think it's so fun, like, because, like, video games kind of, like, bring people closer together, even if you're not in the same room or anything. Like, you can still play from afar and still get the time with them and to get to play the games you love.
No matter how you do it, please try to get your friends and family into video games. There are few hobbies that are this interactive. And that about sums up the video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.